There's a specific sound a room makes when violence happens in the middle of celebration. It's not a gasp, it's deeper than that. It's the sound of air being sucked out of a space, of time stopping, of everyone simultaneously realizing that something unspeakable just happened and nothing will ever be the same. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I am 28 years old, and 3 months ago, my father hit me across the face during his birthday toast in front of 42 people. Not a slap, a punch, with his closed fist, hard enough that I fell, hard enough that my lips split, hard enough that blood ran down my chin onto my white blouse. 42 people watched. My mother, my brothers, my aunts and uncles, my father's colleagues, his friends, everyone who'd come to celebrate his 60th birthday. He stood over me, still holding his champagne glass, and said 5 words I will never forget. "That's what you deserve." For 14 days after that punch, my father thought he'd gotten away with it, that family shame and loyalty would keep me quiet, that I'd forgive him like I'd forgiven everything else. He was wrong. 14 days after he hit me in front of 42 witnesses, my father stood in front of a judge for his arraignment. Criminal assault charges, restraining order, facing jail time. And every single person who'd watched him hit me was either testifying against him or had given statements to the police. This is not a revenge story. This is a story about a daughter who decided that 42 witnesses meant 42 people who could no longer pretend my father was violent, and 42 people who would finally see the truth I'd been living with my entire life. Before I tell you what I said to the police when they arrived that night, before I tell you about the 14 days I spent building a case that destroyed my father's reputation, before I tell you about standing in that courtroom and watching him finally face consequences, I need something from you. If this story is already making your hands shake, if you've ever been hit by someone who was supposed to protect you, if you've ever been told to keep family violence a secret, hit that like button right now for every person who refused to stay silent. Subscribe to this channel if you want real stories about domestic violence survivors who press charges, who use the law, who refuse to protect their abusers, who chose justice over family loyalty. And drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if you've ever reported a family member. Tell me your story. I read every single comment. We're survivors here. We're the ones who spoke up, and we're not ashamed. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, because to understand why he hit me that night, you need to understand who my father is and the violence I'd been hiding for 28 years. I need to tell you about 2 versions of my father, because he's 2 completely different people depending on who's watching. My father, James Mitchell, is a high school principal, respected in our community, known for being tough but fair with students, a pillar of the community, the kind of man who gives speeches at graduation about integrity and character. That's the public version. Behind closed doors, he's a tyrant, controlling, violent, cruel, and my entire family has spent decades pretending that man doesn't exist. The violence started when I was young, 7 years old. I don't remember what I did to trigger it, spilled something, talked back, made too much noise. It doesn't matter. The violence was never about what we did. It was about his need for control. He grabbed my arm hard enough to leave bruises, finger-shaped marks that lasted for days. My mother saw them, said nothing. When I was 10, I got a B on a math test. He hit me across the back of my head. You're better than this. You're making me look bad. When I was 13, I came home 15 minutes past curfew. He shoved me against the wall so hard I got the wind knocked out of me. You think you can disrespect my rules? When I was 16, I argued with him about which college to attend. He threw a glass at me. It shattered against the wall next to my head. Glass in my hair, terror in my chest. My mother always said the same thing after. You know how your father gets when he's stressed. Just try not to upset him. My two younger brothers learned to stay quiet, to be invisible, to never challenge him, to accept that Dad's anger was just how things were. I learned something different. I learned to fight back, to argue, to refuse to be silent, which meant I took the brunt of it more than anyone else in the family. By the time I was 18, I'd been hit, shoved, grabbed, had things thrown at me dozens of times, but never in front of anyone outside the family. Never where anyone could see. My father was careful. He never hit hard enough to send me to the hospital, never left marks that couldn't be covered, never lost control in public. He saved his violence for home, where secrets stayed secret, where his reputation stayed intact. I left home for college, got a degree in social work, specialized in domestic violence counseling. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days helping women leave abusive situations while staying silent about my own. I moved to Portland, built a life 3 hours away, visited home maybe twice a year, kept my contact with my father minimal, phone calls on holidays, perfunctory texts on birthdays. I thought distance was enough, that I'd escaped, that the violence was behind me. But you don't escape violence. You carry it with you, in your nervous system, in your hypervigilance, in the way you flinch when someone moves too fast. And you definitely don't escape when you're still expected to attend family events, to play the role of loving daughter, to maintain the illusion of a happy family. When my father's 60th birthday approached, my mother called me. She said, "Sarah, your father wants a big party. All the family, his colleagues, his friends, he wants you there." I said, "Mom, I don't know if I can make it. I have a lot going on with work." She said, "Sarah, please, it's a milestone. It would mean a lot to him, to all of us." I heard the plea in her voice, the unspoken request. Don't make waves, don't make problems. Just come, just pretend. I said, "Okay, I'll be there." I regretted it immediately. Arrived at the venue at 6 p.m. People were already there. My brothers and their wives, my aunts and uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. My father's colleagues from the high school, his golf buddies, his childhood friends. 42 people total, I counted later. My father was in his element, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, telling stories, playing the role of beloved patriarch. He saw me walk in. His expression shifted for just a second, something cold in his eyes. Then the smile returned. "Sarah, you made it." He hugged me, stiff, performative. "Glad you could take time out of your busy schedule." There was an edge to his voice, a dig, but subtle enough that only I heard it. The evening progressed. Dinner, conversations, people asking me about my life in Portland, my work, my apartment, standard small talk. I was at a table with my brothers, Daniel and Mark. Daniel was 32, Mark was 26, both married, both with children, both still living within 30 minutes of our parents. Daniel said quietly, "You okay? You seem tense." I said, "I'm fine, just tired." He nodded, but he knew. We all knew. Being around Dad was exhausting. After dinner, the cake came out. Everyone sang happy birthday. My father beamed. This was his night, his celebration, his moment. Then came the toasts. My mother went first. A sweet speech about their 40 years of marriage, about building a life together, about being proud of the family they'd created. My father's best friend went next, a funny story about their college days. Then my father stood up, took the microphone. His face was flushed from alcohol. He'd been drinking steadily all evening. He said, "Thank you all for being here. 60 years. Hard to believe. But I've been blessed. Great career, great friends." He paused, looked at my mother. "Great wife who's put up with me for 4 decades." Everyone laughed. He continued, "And my children, Daniel, Mark, Sarah. I'm proud of all of you." He looked at my brothers. "Daniel, you're doing great at the firm. Mark, that promotion at the company was well-deserved. You boys have made me proud." Then he looked at me. His expression changed, hardened. He said, "Sarah, my daughter, the one who moved away, who's too busy to visit, who's working in Portland at her little counseling job." My stomach dropped. He said, "Sarah's always been the difficult one, always questioning, always pushing back, never quite fitting in with the family." People shifted uncomfortably. He said, "But you know what? Sometimes difficult people need to be reminded where they come from, who made them." I stood up. I said, "Dad, I think that's enough." He said, "Sit down. I'm not done." I said, "Yes, you are. I'm not doing this." I started to walk toward the door. He moved fast, faster than I expected for a 60-year-old drunk man. He grabbed my arm, spun me around. He said, "When I'm talking, you listen." I said, "Let go of me." He said, "You don't get to disrespect me, not in front of everyone." I tried to pull away. He held tighter. I said louder, "Let go of me." He raised his other hand, the one holding his champagne glass, and he hit me. Not with the glass, he'd dropped it by then, with his fist across my face, hard. I fell, hit the floor, tasted blood immediately. My lip had split, my cheek was on fire, my ears were ringing. The room went completely silent. That sound I described, the sound of air being sucked out. My father stood over me, his face red, his fists still clenched. He said, "That's what you deserve." For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Everyone was frozen, processing what they'd just seen. Then chaos. My mother screamed, "James, what did you do?" My brother Daniel stood up. "Dad, what the hell?" My Aunt Linda ran over to me, helped me sit up. "Sarah, honey, are you okay?" I wasn't okay. My face was throbbing. Blood was running down my chin. I could feel my lips swelling. But more than the physical pain, I felt something else. Clarity. 42 people had just watched. 42 people who could no longer pretend, who could no longer make excuses, who could no longer say, "It's not that bad," or "You must have done something to provoke him." They'd seen it. All of them. My father seemed to realize what he'd done. The mask slipped back into place. His face shifted from anger to shock to something that looked like remorse. He said, "Sarah, I didn't mean to. I don't know what. You just—" I stood up. My Aunt Linda was holding my arm. Blood was dripping onto my white blouse. I looked at my father. I said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You just assaulted me in front of everyone here, 42 witnesses." My father said, "Sarah, come on, I got carried away. I didn't mean to hit you that hard." I pointed to my face, blood still dripping. "Does this look like barely touched?" My brother Daniel pulled out his phone. He was filming. "Dad, stop talking. You're making it worse." My father looked at Daniel. "Are you filming this? Turn that off." Daniel said, "No, Sarah's right. Everyone here saw what you did, and I'm making sure there's a record." My brother Mark was standing near the door, looking torn, uncomfortable, but he didn't leave. He didn't try to stop any of it. My Aunt Linda said to my mother, "Catherine, you need to get James out of here before the police arrive." My mother said, Sarah, please, just tell them it was an accident, that you fell. We can handle this privately. I stared at her. This woman who'd raised me, who'd protected my abuser my entire life, who was still protecting him even now. I said, "No, I'm done protecting him. I'm done keeping secrets. Everyone here saw what he did, and I'm pressing charges." The police arrived 12 minutes later. 2 officers, a man and a woman. They walked into a room full of stunned people. A bleeding woman, a drunk man who looked panicked, a mother who looked desperate, brothers who looked conflicted. The female officer came to me immediately. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Rodriguez. Can you tell me what happened?" I said, "My father hit me during his birthday toast, in front of everyone here." She looked at my face, at the blood. "Do you need medical attention?" I said, "Probably. My lip is split, but I need you to arrest him first. I want to press charges." She said, "We'll get to that. Let's get you checked out first." That night was a blur. Paramedics came. They cleaned my face, took photos of my injuries, split lip, bruising on my cheek that would get worse over the next few days, swelling around my eye. The police took statements, from me, from witnesses, from my father. My father tried to minimize it. It was an accident. I was gesturing and accidentally hit her. I didn't mean to. Officer Rodriguez said, "Sir, we have multiple witnesses saying you punched her, that you closed your fist and struck her deliberately." My father said, "They're misremembering. It all happened so fast." But they weren't misremembering. And more importantly, my brother Daniel had video, not of the actual punch, but of the immediate aftermath. Me on the ground, blood on my face, my father standing over me saying, "That's what you deserve." The police arrested my father that night. Assault in the 4th degree, domestic violence enhancement because we're family. He was taken to the county jail, booked, released on his own recognizance 6 hours later because he had no prior record and wasn't considered a flight risk. The next day, Sunday, I woke up in my Portland apartment with a face that looked like I'd been in a car accident. Bruises had bloomed overnight, purple and blue across my cheek. My lip was twice its normal size. I called my boss, told her what happened, that I needed a few days off. She was horrified, supportive. "Take all the time you need. Do you need resources? We have victim advocates who can help you navigate this." I said, "I am a victim advocate. I know exactly what to do." And I did. For the next 14 days, I built a case against my father that was airtight. Day 1, I took photos of my face from every angle, documented the progression of bruising, made notes about pain levels, difficulty eating, difficulty speaking. Day 2, I went to my doctor, got official medical documentation of my injuries, photos in my medical record, doctor's notes stating injuries consistent with assault. Day 3, I met with the prosecutor assigned to my case, Assistant District Attorney named Jennifer Walsh, young, sharp, experienced in domestic violence cases. She said, "Sarah, I want to be honest with you. Family assault cases are hard to prosecute. Family members often recant. Witnesses get intimidated. Victims drop charges." I said, "I'm not dropping charges, and I'm not recanting, and my witnesses won't be intimidated because there are 42 of them. My father can't threaten all of them." She looked at me carefully. "You seem very certain." I said, "I'm a domestic violence counselor. I spend my days telling women to report, to press charges, to use the system. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't do the same thing." She said, "Okay, then let's build a case he can't weasel out of." Day 4 through 7, I gave my full statement to the DA's office.
everything, not just the punch at the party, but the lifetime of violence, the pattern, the control, the abuse. I said, I want to be clear, this wasn't an isolated incident. This was the first time he hit me in public, but it's not the first time he's hit me. Jennifer said, we can't prosecute past abuse if it wasn't reported, but we can use it to establish pattern, to show this wasn't an accident. Day 8, Jennifer contacted witnesses, 42 people. She interviewed 30 of them, got written statements from 15, video evidence from my brother Daniel. Every statement was consistent. James Mitchell had punched his daughter, deliberately, with force, in front of everyone. Day 9, I filed for a restraining order, temporary protective order, keeping my father at least 500 feet away from me at all times. Day 10, the restraining order was granted, served on my father at his home. My mother called me. Sarah, do you know what you've done? Your father can't come to family events now. He can't see his grandchildren at our house because you might be there. You're tearing this family apart. I said, he tore it apart when he hit me, Mom. I'm just making sure he can't do it again. Day 11, my father's colleagues found out. Word spread at the high school. The principal arrested for domestic assault. Parents started calling the school board, demanding answers. Day 12, the school board placed my father on administrative leave pending the outcome of the criminal case. Full pay, but couldn't be on campus. His reputation was crumbling, the thing he'd valued above everything else, his standing in the community, his image as a respected educator. All of it falling apart because he couldn't control his violence for 2 more minutes at his birthday party. Day 13, my father hired a lawyer, expensive defense attorney. The lawyer called Jennifer, tried to negotiate a plea deal. Jennifer told me, his lawyer wants to plead down to a harassment charge, no jail time, anger management classes, dismissal after completion. I said, no. Absolutely not. He assaulted me in front of 42 people. I want him convicted. Jennifer said, it might go to trial. Are you ready for that? I said, I've been ready for 28 years. Day 14, my father's arraignment. The day he stood in front of a judge for the first time in his life. I went to the arraignment. I didn't have to, but I wanted to be there. I wanted him to see me. The courthouse was in downtown Salem. Small courtroom, maybe 20 people could fit in the gallery. The defendant's family, the victim, lawyers, press if the case was interesting enough. This case was interesting. Local principal arrested for assaulting his daughter at his own birthday party. The local paper had covered it. Small article on page 3, but still, people knew. I sat in the front row of the gallery. Jennifer sat at the prosecution table. My father's lawyer, a man named Thomas Barrett, sat at the defense table. My father was brought in from a side door. He'd been told to surrender to the court that morning, to be processed and arraigned.
He was wearing a suit, trying to look respectable, trying to maintain his image. He saw me immediately. Our eyes met. I saw shame, anger, fear. I felt nothing but cold determination. The judge entered, Judge Sandra Cooper, 60-some years old, reputation for being tough on domestic violence cases. The clerk called the case, State of Oregon versus James Mitchell, case number... Judge Cooper looked at my father. Mr. Mitchell, you're charged with assault in the 4th degree with a domestic violence enhancement. Do you understand these charges? My father's lawyer stood. Yes, Your Honor, we understand the charges. Judge Cooper said, how does your client plead? My father stood. His lawyer whispered something. My father said, not guilty, Your Honor. Of course. He couldn't admit guilt, couldn't admit what 42 people saw.
Judge Cooper said, "Very well. Bail has been set at $10,000. Conditions include no contact with the victim, Sarah Mitchell. You are to stay at least 500 feet away from her at all times. You are not to contact her directly or through third parties. Do you understand?" My father said, "Yes, Your Honor." Judge Cooper looked at Jennifer. "Does the state have anything to add?" Jennifer stood. "Yes, Your Honor, we'd like to request additional bail conditions. The defendant has substantial ties to the community, but also significant means to intimidate witnesses. There were 42 witnesses to this assault. We want to ensure they're protected." Judge Cooper nodded. "What are you proposing?" Jennifer said, "We request that the defendant be prohibited from contacting any witnesses in this case. We'll provide a list to the court and defense counsel." My father's lawyer objected. "Your Honor, that list would include his family members, his colleagues, his friends. You're essentially isolating him from his entire support system." Judge Cooper said, "Mr. Barrett, your client allegedly assaulted his daughter in front of dozens of people. If those people are witnesses, he should not be contacting them. Motion granted." She looked at my father. "Mr. Mitchell, you are not to contact any witnesses on the list provided by the prosecution. Violation of these terms will result in your bail being revoked and you being held pending trial. Do you understand?" My father said quietly, "Yes, Your Honor." Judge Cooper set a trial date, 3 months out, standard for criminal cases. The arraignment ended. My father was released. He walked past me without looking at me. His lawyer ushered him out quickly. Jennifer came over to me. "You okay?" I said, "Better than okay. Did you see his face?" She smiled. "Yeah, he's realizing how serious this is." I said, "Good. It should be serious. What he did was serious." She said, "Sarah, I have to warn you, the next few months are going to be hard. His lawyer is going to try to paint you as vindictive, as someone who has a grudge. They're going to try to make this about family drama instead of violence." I said, "Let them try. I have 42 witnesses. I have medical records. I have photos. I have video. What do they have?" She said, "They have a respected principal with no prior record who will claim it was an accident, a moment of poor judgment fueled by alcohol." I said, "We both know it wasn't an accident." She said, "I know, and we're going to prove it." The trial happened exactly 3 months after the arraignment. It lasted 2 days, short for a criminal trial, but the evidence was overwhelming. Jennifer called 12 witnesses, people who'd been at the party, people who'd seen everything. My Aunt Linda testified, "I saw James close his fist and punch Sarah in the face. There was no question it was deliberate." My colleagues James testified, "I've known James for 15 years. I've never seen him lose control like that, but what I saw that night was assault, clear as day." My brother Daniel testified. He played the video he'd taken, the aftermath. "My father standing over me. That's what you deserve." The courtroom was silent watching that video. My father's lawyer tried to discredit the witnesses, tried to suggest they were biased, tried to claim it was a family matter blown out of proportion. Then I testified. I walked through everything, the punch, the pain, the blood, the terror. And then, against Jennifer's initial advice, I talked about the history, the lifetime of violence, the pattern. My father's lawyer objected. "Your Honor, this is prejudicial. We're here to discuss one incident, not the defendant's entire relationship with his daughter." Judge Cooper said, "Overruled. Pattern evidence is relevant to establish intent and state of mind." I continued, 28 years of violence, specific incidents, dates I could remember, injuries I'd hidden. The jury listened. 12 people, 7 women, 5 men. Some looked sympathetic, some looked angry. My father testified in his own defense. Big mistake.
He claimed it was an accident, that he'd been gesturing with his hands during his speech and accidentally struck me. Jennifer cross-examined him. Mr. Mitchell, in your statement to police, you said you barely touched your daughter, but medical records show she had a split lip, facial bruising, and swelling. Does that seem consistent with barely touching someone? My father stammered. I was upset. I wasn't thinking clearly. Jennifer said, upset about what? Upset about accidentally hitting your daughter, or upset that she was standing up to you? He didn't answer. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, I was in the courtroom. So was my father. The judge asked, has the jury reached a verdict? The forewoman stood. We have, Your Honor. In the case of State of Oregon versus James Mitchell on the charge of assault in the 4th degree with domestic violence enhancement, how do you find? We find the defendant guilty. My father's face crumbled. His lawyer put a hand on his arm. Judge Cooper set a sentencing date, 30 days out. As we left the courtroom, my father tried to approach me. His lawyer stopped him. James, no contact. The protective order is still in effect. My father looked at me from across the hallway. He said loud enough for me to hear, I hope you're happy. You destroyed your own father. I looked at him. I said clearly, you destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone knew about it. Sentencing happened 3 weeks ago. My father got 90 days in county jail with 60 days suspended, 30 days actual jail time, 3 years of probation, mandatory anger management, mandatory domestic violence intervention program, 5 years of a no-contact order with me. It's not enough, 30 days for a lifetime of violence, but it's something. More importantly, his reputation is destroyed. He lost his job. The school board terminated him after the conviction. He'll never work in education again. His friends know. His colleagues know. His entire community knows that respected Principal Mitchell is a domestic abuser who hit his daughter at his own birthday party. And he can't hide from it, can't minimize it, can't pretend it didn't happen, because 42 people saw, and 12 jurors believed me. My family has split. My mother still stands by him. She's angry with me for ruining his life. My brothers are conflicted, but they support me. Daniel especially. He said, what he did was wrong. You did the right thing. My extended family is divided. Some think I went too far. Some think I should have kept it private. Some think I'm a hero. I don't care what they think. I care that I stood up. I pressed charges. I testified. I won. And now my father has a criminal record, and every future employer who Googles his name will see it. Every person who looks him up will know. He hit his daughter, and she made sure he faced consequences. If you're watching this, and you've been hit by a family member, hear this. You don't owe them silence. You don't owe them protection. You don't owe them your complicity. What my father did was a crime, and I treated it like one. 42 witnesses meant 42 people who can't deny what happened. Use that power.